Hey, good morning. Frankie is. Good morning. Hi, baby. Don't let it fall off Don't let it fall off. Good boy. Okay, so I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you a couple things. Oh, before I get started, how are you? How are you? I need to, check my messages. I haven't. If you've left me a message or an email, I'm sorry. They are, I know my emails are sure piling up. Wow. Yay. But I apologize for not getting back to you. I have just had so few answers to calm my mind, to feel like I didn't want to have to say hello and chit chat. I don't have any answers. So I decided wait until I had some answers. That's what I decided to do. Okay, so I got the x-rays I told you of the lumps right here. It turns out the original three-dimensional, I don't know, that they took like 3 sets of x-rays, found nothing. I think I told you that. So they scheduled me for bilateral sonogram. Well, that was a mess because turns out our city is going through a lot of changes with the radiation department, or whatever they call it. They can't depend on anybody showing up or even staying employed there. I don't know what else is going on behind the scenes, but that's how I understand it. Boom. Couldn't get a sonogram in my own town of over 300,000 people, huge hospital, and lots of doctors here. But nobody had a radiologist to be able to get into within the whole city. Had to go 45 miles out of town to Northcrest. Anyway, I had never been there before, but it was fine, but it was 2 months out. So I started the Joe Tippins protocol. And I pretty much followed Dr. Campbell all through COVID. Weirdly, I found him because I was looking for supplements to take when you get COVID, because I was under a lot of stress. I don't usually get sick. And when I do, it's usually just tired. But I lost one of my godmothers, and I had traveled all night. I think I stopped at a hotel, paid almost $200 to sleep 2 hours, and sat by her side, and the family did the eulogy, drove all the way back because I had clients, and it was a very stressful couple weeks down there, with maybe it was 3 weeks, because of all the, the drama and trauma around death and heartache. And some people handle it better than others. I ended up with some kind of flu or maybe emotional breakdown. I don't know what. But my husband made me take a COVID test, which, their accuracy level now was about nothing. But he sprung to the task and took care of me for several days while I was sick as a dog with COVID. I don't know. I think I've got such a record for being good during a crisis. And then afterwards, and I don't mean just like a loved one passing away or some kind of issue, but that was a lot. Yeah, excuse me, sir, a second.
I gotta run. Teresa's over at Mom's and she wants me to look at some stuff at Mom's house.
Okay.
Okay, I'll see you when you get back.
Okay. Okay, so anyway, it took me about a week to recover from that. And so I explored when I came to here and there. Oh my God, the body aches and pains. Kept me from taking supplements that I had saved up, stocked up on. I barely took any, but thank goodness I snapped out of it within a week. And that's saying a lot. That I usually have a good immunity system. And I try to research things to stay up to date on things. Because I feel like the doctors have swindled us for a long time. I was 16 and had precancerous cells, and not one doctor told me I could stop doing 2 Pap tests a year. So when I turned 40, I decided I had read enough information, because the computers came out, and I was studying for a degree or certification in something, and I was just learning to use the internet. Yeah. And somebody posted, I don't know where I read it, but anyway, I was doing research papers on some mental health issue related to the mother drinking alcohol. I forgot what it was called now. It escapes me. But that's where I read that doctors were making lots of money off of these yearly mammograms and yearly Pap tests. And here they had me doing them every 6 months for decades. Yes. So I quit. The only time I did a mammogram after that was when I felt a lump. And because I have fibrous breasts, you know, every 5, 10, 12 years, I've had a lump that needed an x-ray sonogram and then find out it's just fibrous lump tightening up and disappearing. So, how can I make this story any longer before I say, how are you? What have you been up to? Holy cow. Because I care. I do. So please leave a comment or shoot me an email and I'll get back to you eventually, I promise. Anyway, so that's why I wasn't too panicked over the lump. I didn't start getting panicked over the lump, that is, until I was lucky enough to get that x-ray, and right after that, the bottom fell out. Unless you were bleeding and in, you know, coming from an emergency room situation or ambulatory, they were not going to do an x-ray at all. You believe that? So when I found out I couldn't get in for make an appointment there, that they could shoot for 3 months, but they couldn't guarantee it. They knew they were not making appointments until 3 months out because they just didn't have anybody to do it. I even called personally to try to sneak, I don't know, try to get in there. And this lady was almost in tears about how much pressure they were under and trying to straighten out everything. So something's going on. Just saying. So, went out of town to get it. Oh, I wanted to tell you this. So, dear God in heaven. So, I think that when I go through things, I look at them as, how am I going to go through this situation with grace? And sometimes, of course, my ego doesn't handle things all that graceful. Because I've got such a hard head, but that's why it's my goal over and over and over again to try to stay in sanity and try not to let my mouth override my you know what. Right? Right. So, I know, look at that blue eyeliner. What do you think of that? So I have the blue eyeliner and then this light gray eyeshadow. Because I couldn't find a navy blue eyeshadow that got any kind of good reviews at all. I guess I could have just bought some from like, but I didn't see any on Amazon, just from Maybelline or something. Because they have these little one color palettes. They carry quite a bit for under $10. And I haven't had too much trouble with those. So anyway, so I call at the doctor and say, or doctor's office, and the admin person who answers, the phone person answers, and I said, is there anyone else, anyone else in Clarksville that can help me get in sooner? Because I'm not that anxious about that I have cancer, but I'm curious, and so that's increased my anxiety. So I'm really anxious, and as I'm saying it, I'm like, okay, maybe I'm a little scared. So anyway, she was very short with me. Is that kind of short where you think, damn, she had a bad day. So I stayed very calm. And I just said, no, here's what she said. Well, if we make you an appointment with someone else, I'll have to cancel your other appointment. And I was saying, no, I just want to find out if there is an opening somewhere, we can make me an appointment there, and I'll call and cancel the other appointment. You don't have, she interrupted me. Well, you can't just make 2 appointments and show up the one you want. And I was just like, what? Well, anyway, I tried to talk to her, and I think I said, well, I didn't think of that, but that's not a terrible idea. If I could, if I had thought about it, I'd probably make an appointment at 6 places and see who I got in the quickest. I mean, I want to get on somebody's waiting list. Waiting 3 months is just going to be nerve-wracking. So I had to go through my insurance company. Oh, anyway, by the time I got off the phone with her, I had already apologized to her several times. I said, I know there's a misunderstanding between me and thee. I understand that. I don't know what it is. I've tried to say it in so many ways, but I really feel like you're misunderstanding me, or I'm not making myself clear. So I'm so sorry. I'm going to get some more information and I'll call you back. She hung up. So I get a hold of my insurance company. We found a place about 45 minutes, hour away from here. Went ahead and made the inquire whether they could get me in or not. She said, yes, just have my doctor call and make an appointment. So they made an appointment there. Or when I called back, she was not happy, but she made the appointment there. Then a week later, I found out there was a place here in town at a very small doctor's office that had a sonogram, because that's what they wanted to do, a bilateral sonogram. So when I was doing all that, I called the doctor's office back, primary care provider's office back, and said, oh, there's a place in town. Went through this all over again. All over again. So finally, I said, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on here. It sounds like I have upset you, and I don't know what's going on. I'm under a lot of anxiety with the situation I'm in, and I'll just call the other place and cancel, and I'll make the appointment and pay cash. I don't need to use my insurance. My good friend Dorothy helped me with that. I was just like, never mind. Why get stuck thinking I have to use cash or have to use insurance? I can afford it. And if I couldn't afford it, hell, I'll just use credit card. I am not going to deal with this when I'm already under stress. Already working, picking up more full-time hours because I want to get a couple things finished around this house. Because I always think if something happens to my husband and he doesn't, and I don't have his income, that disability check, then I want to make sure I can afford to maintain the place. And there's some things that I can do that will make it a lot easier. So, and now I'm going through this. So it's kind of funny. It's like, what? Didn't expect that to happen. So anyway, evidently the nurse overheard some of this going on, and she called me back and said, hi, what's going on? I heard you're going to cancel your sonogram. I said, yeah, I just told her, I said, you know what, if this turns out I really do have cancer, I'm going to have to look for another doctor, because I'm not going to do follow-ups and call for even appointments and be treated the way this gal has been treating me on the phone. And I'm sure she wouldn't treat me that way in person. It's a small office, and I'm guessing who it is, but she would never treat me like that in person. And if she did, she would see my face in person, that this is very hurtful. And she apologized for her and said she was having a bad day. And I said, I understand that, but please understand, so am I. And so are most people who call. And if she's treated other people the way she treated me, oh my goodness. So anyway, I said, in addition to that, I thought I was getting a bilateral sonogram. And then I hear from the hospital out of town that it was scheduled for, that it's a bilateral sonogram with aspiration. And I do not want aspirated. I don't want a biopsy. I don't want someone getting in there and disturbing it when I could be maybe treating it with some other things that I'd like to talk to the doctor about it. And so she went and double checked. She goes, oh no, that was the mistake on the paperwork part, but that was not what was happening. There were only so many choices on the form, and so there was a misunderstanding, but it was very clear, no aspiration. Okay. She soothed me. I really like his nurse. So I went through with waiting because I don't know, maybe it was the last time I was talking to the admin person. I forgot a part. She said that she called. Oh, she was irate when I said, well, I'll just pay cash then. So she calls for some reason, and she said they don't do the procedure that you want done. And I was just like, oh my God, why is she? So I don't know. So that's when the nurse called me. So then it was like, okay, I have to wait the 3 months. So I started taking, after a lot of research, like I said, I've been doing health research having to do with women's health and the World Health Organization and pharmacology, big pharma, and Fauci, believe it or not. It was so interesting because some of my favorite, one of my favorite counselors was Louise Hay. She worked with the AIDS Project, AIDS patients. She was one of the first people to work with AIDS patients and be able to touch them and love them and counsel with them, give them hugs, treat them as human beings, because she did her research and found that her chances of being contaminated were very small. Thank God she did. So that's enough for working in the yard. I'm just gonna work in the yard today. So I get up there, get the bilateral sonogram done. The technician acted like she was afraid to touch my breast. Every time she couldn't find it with that, that they put all that lube on you so they can run the sonogram over, she kept apologizing for how messy it was at least 4 times. Asked permission to touch me to try to find the lump, to put the sonogram over, apologizing each time, asking permission. I'm like, if you just feel right here with your fingers, you might have to, like, she was just touching to where it was just smooth skin, right? Barely feeling you can feel a little bit of a rise on this side, and you can feel a little bit of a heat difference, I would say, in my opinion. But if you press down, you can feel it clearly. But she wouldn't. So anyway, she was only able to find one small lump, 2 millimeters, which I know that's very small. It just feels bigger because of all the skin, muscle over it. That's what I realized. I didn't realize that before. So anyway, then they decided, well, let's go ahead and do a mammogram while we're here. So they did both breasts. Didn't find anything except there was a little something that looked like a little something. So evidently it was one large one. And as I've been taking Joe Tippin's protocol over the last almost 2 months, I started taking it before I had that appointment last week. So I'm so excited. Sorry I'm talking so loud. It's very exciting. So anyway, is not only broken down into 2 smaller lumps, but they are getting smaller. The larger one is getting smaller, and now they're both about the same size as far as I'm concerned. The Joe Tippins protocol, they're talking about it being 1 to 4 months before you see the difference. But some people have just amazing results. I'm sharing it with you because from my research, biopsies and aspirations can be dangerous. So after the mammograms, they got the results right away. The doctor was right across the hall. She shot him through the email. 15 seconds later, he comes back and says, well, let's go ahead and do it looks suspicious, so I just want to go ahead and do a biopsy. And I said, well, why don't you hold off on that? Bam, 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 money, 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 in my head. I was like, let me confer with my primary care provider and we'll get back with you. Okay. So I'm thinking, woo, I got out of there. I'm so glad I found my voice and that I've done the research that I have. So, baby, you're such a pretty boy. I have an appointment this Tuesday with my PCP, which I'm excited about, to talk to him, and I think I'll tell him what I've been doing. He'll probably think I'm crazy. He did when I said I did not want to take the COVID jab, just because of the research I did. I did thorough research. So I decided against that one. Not against facts. I've been taking them every year with the military for 22 years, 22 years. So it's not that. It's that I've refused 2 different injections. One was oh gosh darn it. I'll think of it later. The one that if you beat raw hides until they're dry, and then after they're dry, you're still beating them, there's little particles that can come up. It's very rare, but oh gosh, I can't think of it. Never mind. I'll tell y'all about it later. Anyway, and then this one, and that's about the time I got out of the military. Retired early. I didn't want to admit it to myself because I had so much other stuff going on, like the health of my spouse, which was horrible. And I basically didn't have a support system at the time because I was so new here, and then that on top of it, and the way the world was acting, I couldn't stand it anymore. So anyway, I did a lot of research. I had the time, so I am not a fanatic. I want you, if you have cancer or you have a loved one who has cancer, please explore Dr. Campbell. Please. There's a lot of good research out there. And you know how everybody says, oh, so-and-so there is a cure for cancer out there. It's just so cheap, pharmacology, the big pharma won't profit from it. Just like if aspirin had been introduced now instead of when it was, we wouldn't be getting a couple pills for $1 or a bottle of 1,000 for $15. It would be very expensive. Aspirin is a wonderful drug. But anyway, please believe me. Don't go through this alone. Just research it. It can't cost you anything if you already have a phone and internet. The other thing is, when you do aspirations, it's where they go in with the needle. You know, biopsies used to be cut it up, take a piece out. He called it a biopsy, but I think the new word, I don't know. Biopsy, aspiration. Aspiration is where they take a needle in, and inside the needle there's this tiniest little clutch that comes out of the needle. Like here's a long needle hole, right? Long needle, skinny, as skinny as you can get, but even smaller is there's this thing that comes out, and then on the end of it there's a clutch, And so it comes through the needle goes into the tumor, the probe comes out, clutches a little piece, and then comes back into the needle, and then the needle pulls out. Now, it's only simple physics that when you puncture something, little tiny cells are going to come out. You touch a flower, little particles come out, right? You touch a beehive, bees will come out. You touch dirt, the dirt is going to come out. So I don't want a tumor disturbed and start getting all over my body, which is very common. We knew that when somebody got a biopsy and the tumor wasn't benign, if it was malignant, it usually spread right away. That has never changed. So, I'm emphatic and I'm in a hurry. I gotta go. I'm caffeinated up. I'm gonna go help a friend who's moving out of town. She's been a peer, a comrade, and we knew each other almost long enough to be friends. But she's very blue, and every time I see her, we haven't bonded enough for me to have the conversation with her. I'm tired of hearing politics if you are so hateful about it. I mean, she's one of those people that believes harm should come to the president, and that's one of the reasons why I almost quit spending any time with her. But I understand the Trump derangement syndrome is real. I get that. I understand my hatred for what was going on with the Biden administration didn't make me want to hurt anybody. That's for sure. I mean, that's not my job. I just know my emotions, not my thoughts on that stuff. My emotions don't go in that neighborhood either. My emotions get sad, worried, depressed, but I don't get that kind of So anyway, there's differences. I'm so venting, but glad I got to connect. I'm glad you got to see Frankie. I love him so much. I gotta go hit the road. What else was I gonna tell y'all? I'm sending love and prayers to all of you who are going through anything. Please send me your love and prayers for what I'm going through. It's a lot of anxiety. And just know that the lumps are so much better. I'll keep you posted. I think I'm in such denial about how worried I've been about it that now I'm starting to talk about it. Excuse me. I'm hearing all of this energy and I'm like, oh my God. So, but I love research, and that's one of the things that's keeping me hopeful that everything's going to be fine. I just know everything that I've seen on chemo and radiation does not excite me. Have there been success stories? Yes. Long-term healing? And then having to go through it again is fairly common. I just don't think I have the pain threshold legitimately to be able to go through it the first time, let alone go through it the first time and think, oh, I have to go through it again. No. I mean, it gives me heartburn just thinking about it. So I think I'd rather die gracefully. If the extreme is happening, then going out in pain and alone. There's no way anybody can be with you at that level. You can't. I mean, for me, I can't stand people being around me when I'm that sick, unless you're waiting on me hand and foot. And people don't handle cancer very well. How do I know? Or death and dying very well. How do I know? Because I volunteered for hospice. I've watched friends and family or friends and their family go through it, and I've been stepping in helping because they can't handle it, not in the way I'd want it handled. So I'm good with people when they're suffering and or dying. It's a gift. I just don't mind it. Anyway, I love y'all. I gotta run. Mwah. Please take care. All right. More later when I have time. Bye for now.